Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Daniel McGuire here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about textbooks. You know, the textbooks that you kind of hear about are the most expensive thing in college when you have to start a new quarter or a new semester. So I'm going to try and debunk some of that, as well as, you know, how to get textbooks the best way and my personal experience with textbooks in my 4 years as an undergraduate at the University of California, Irvine, studying civil engineering. So be sure to stick around to the end so you can see all the information. Be sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get to it. Okay, so there are two ways that you can kind of know what textbooks you need. One is through the syllabus that the professor can give you a few weeks before class. Another one is going to the school bookstore online, and you know, usually a lot of professors will upload the textbooks that they require, and you can kind of see what you would need if you wanted to get ahead and kind of look at the textbooks you may or may not need. And then ultimately, you know, I would wait until you have direct contact with your professor, whether that be emailing or in person. You know, ask them, what textbooks are really required. Sometimes they put recommended and you don't really need them. Other times it's supplemental information that you may not really need at that time. So just really, I would say, ask them directly whether or not you need the textbook, because sometimes they say you need it, but you don't really end up requiring it in the end. So I would say your next best bet to find out if you really require the textbook, even if the professor says that it's required and you 100% need it, would be to ask people who have taken the class in years prior or quarters or semesters prior to you. Find out if it's really required. I've heard some professors say you need this textbook to pass the class, but the information they gave in lectures or the supplemental information you get in discussions and online resources that you're able to find are enough to help you pass the class. I would say, in my opinion, that textbooks serve as an invaluable resource if you want supplemental information. Most of the time, the professors give you as much information as you probably need, and if you want to acquire more information or you're struggling with a certain topic, I would say then the textbook is good to reference back towards that material and get a second understanding. When you read it, you can kind of get that second knowledge. So definitely consult with not only the professor if you really require it, but also the TA. Ask them if they really require the textbook, and then if that still say that you need it, try checking with your peers. Maybe they say yes, but your peers say, well, it's kind of iffy situation. You could need it if you really want it, but it's not really required to pass the class. The next thing would be just kind of discussing the price of textbooks. I know a lot of textbooks are very expensive if you buy them brand new every single quarter for every class that you need. So another option to that could be just renting the book if you only need it for one quarter. In particular, if you're only taking a class for a GE or a class that you're never really gonna take again in the future, just kind of rent the textbook for that one quarter a semester, and then you're able to save a lot of money. I think a rental would be like 25 to 30% the price of buying a brand new book. So that saves you a lot of money in the long run if you do want to have a physical textbook every single quarter or semester. So on top of renting books, you could also look for PDFs of books, whether that be through online resources or through your peers who may have copies of the PDF. I think that's one of the most invaluable things that you can really get is a PDF, because not only do you have that luxury of having it on your computer or tablet or laptop or anything that you kind of see fit, you can kind of just transport it much easier than you would have to a big thick textbook. So you can kind of just move it everywhere, and you can kind of pull it up on the spot. While you're preparing for a test, you can kind of just look over your material real quick, and that can really benefit you. So I'd say online PDFs, in my opinion, are the best resource to still be able to study anywhere you go. You can kind of just move around the entire campus. Anywhere that you do see fit that you want to study, you can just have that online resource. In my opinion, I had all of my textbooks on online PDFs to the extent that I could. Every single class, if I could find an online PDF for it, I would. And I just have a whole folder full of all my textbooks, versus I think I only bought 5 or so physical textbooks. And sometimes that was just due to the fact that I needed an access code, and buying the textbooks bundle with the access code was cheaper than just buying the access code, which is really weird, but they just really publishers really want to sell the book, so that's what they kind of bundle that package up. So just kind of consider that and try going towards online resources and rental of books if you really do want to save a lot of money in the long term. Okay, so touching back on that aspect of me only buying 5 books, my first 2 books that I bought were for my first quarter of my freshman year, so I was really naive. I thought it said required, the syllabus said required, and I bought the book, and I think I maybe opened it up like 2 or 3 times. And then after that, I really felt that the professor's lecture notes and the discussion were more beneficial towards preparing for the actual exam than the actual textbook. The textbook is very, it's college level reading, university level reading, so it's more sophisticated. It has a lot more convoluted topics and sentences and kind of just structure of the way it's worded. So your professor kind of simplifies what they want to teach you versus what the textbook is a very broad scope. So also consider that. And then my other 2 textbooks that I had to buy, sometimes, an online PDF wouldn't suffice because you needed to have the textbook for open book exams that mainly pertain to my structural design classes my junior and senior year. So it was definitely important to have a physical copy of the textbook then. So just consider and just kind of look around and ask, the professor if a physical copy of the textbook is needed at some point in time. Okay, so last kind of words on textbooks and stuff. I would obviously optimize my decisions and try to go with online PDFs because you can go everywhere with them and you can kind of travel with them, very lightweight. And if not, if you still want to have a physical copy of the book, rentals would be your next best bet. And then if you really are keen on buying the textbook and you want to have it, for future references, like then you would I'd advise to buy a book, but try getting an older edition that still has the same information, and that's one of your best bets in order to buy a textbook but save money in the long run. Textbooks, if you buy them brand new every single quarter, then it can add up, I'd say around $200 to $250, sometimes even $300 for one textbook. And if you take 3 to 4 classes, that could be sometimes over $1,000 for textbooks just for one quarter. And then times the 3 quarters, you could be looking at close to $3,000 to $4,000 just in textbooks alone. So definitely try and opting for rentals or online PDFs will save you a lot of money in that regard. So any questions you might have, leave them in the comment section, and thank you for watching.